there? Who's up who? The guy up first. Who? The guy first base. Who? The guy first. Who is on first? What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Who is on First. I'm your host, Tim Ellerbrook, and thanks for listening. I'm with my good friends, Brian and Michael. Before we get started, if you could do us a favor, make sure to give us a follow on at WOFBB Podcast and leave us some comments. Let's discuss some stuff. How we doing, boys?
All is good. Yeah. No complaints on my end. Exciting trade deadline, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Some outstanding moves by teams and others I'm still baffled by.
I would 100% agree. I was sitting there like a kid in a candy shop watching all the trades go down at the end of the day Thursday. It was beautiful.
I don't think I've stared at my phone that many times in a day in a long time.
I'm not a big Twitter guy, and you guys got to experience. Like I was just going off all day because like these trades are going down like crazy.
It was kind of a competition who could find the first info, but who could find the passing bomb the quickest between the three of us.
100%.
I'm just happy to be drier than everybody in Tennessee on Friday.
Yeah, well, that was a rough one.
That was something.
Yeah, that's right. I feel bad for MLB. The concept was great. Yeah. The execution, because of Mother Nature, not so much. And then they made another blunder with their concession stand runs. So
I got to give a shout to, though, I'm usually not one of these guys that pays a lot of attention, but the Cincinnati uniforms from that game in particular, because I know they changed both. I don't know if it was just the hat or if it was the whole uniform.
Well, the numbers were changed.
That's right.
Like, make that reflection.
I would not mind having one of those Cincinnati hats.
I will
that
say,
was pretty cool.
The ensemble came together. I actually disagree on the hats. I think the hats alone looked a little like
cheesy.
Walmart put together.
I know the flames on Atlanta.
Yeah.
What was it with Cincinnati? I didn't really. Was it still flames as well?
Yeah, it was flames on both sides. But Cincinnati's colors are red, so I think it just probably fit better.
Yeah.
I'm usually a dude that thinks that's stupid cheesy, but for some reason that one was just like, that actually looks clean.
Hey, you get you an Ellie De La Cruz jersey to go with it though. They're pretty clean.
The numbers were kind of like the race car numbers. It's kind of how they formatted them and stuff like that. Another cool thing was you got to see it, I think, on Sunday was when is it Eli White for the Braves? He had had 2 home runs that game, which was cool. But they took the pace car across with the checkered flag on the back stretch when he hit the home run. So that was like I said,
saw the first game, which I guess was made up on Saturday.
The concept of it, I said, was great. Unfortunately, weather just really kind of did a number
rained on their parade.
I was talking to somebody, and they were like, they're just like casually watch baseball sometimes. They were like, why are they putting a team in front of in a racing stadium? I was like, well, it started with the Field of Dreams game a few years ago. So out of all of the ones and all the themed games that have been played so far with, I guess you have to include the London series.
Yeah.
So you have the Field of Dreams, London.
They've done them in Mexico.
Yeah, the Mexico series. There's another, the Alabama series.
Yeah, the one in Birmingham.
Which one, and now the Speedway, which one has been, has hit the best so far?
Now, I think it's just because of my love for the game and the history. If I had to nail 2, and I know the Field of Dreams game is going to be different now because apparently they have demolished the cornfield behind it because they're making like this whole complex now, which I think is just it's a big miss in my opinion. But then the Birmingham game too, like those 2 are right there for me just because of the historical feel behind it.
Would it be the same if it wasn't a Cardinals game?
Yeah, I think so. Because I like the history of that stuff. Like that, to me, there's some significance. Obviously, if you go to KC and you have an opportunity to go to the Negro League Hall of Fame, to be able to witness some of that stuff and see, you know, the barnstorming that happened and really how baseball progressed throughout our country. It's pretty amazing to me in that regard. So when we can pay homage and honor in those leagues and things like that and kind of retrofit those fields even for special moments, I think is pretty cool. The Raceway, like I said, I think it had potential and I understand what they're doing. there because it broadens their fan base because you're going to get some NASCAR fans that just want to say,
true.
hey.
They like that hat.
Right. Yeah. They're all for it because it is like, and again, it's the cheesy NASCAR feel, the jerseys, the hats, those type of things. Like, they did it right in conception. It's just, unfortunately, the execution failed a little bit.
To me, I would agree that those two stand out. The London series was kind of goofy to me. The cool concept, but that field just didn't pan out like it really needed to. And the MLB, in my opinion, kind of fumbled the bag a little bit with going with if you're going to go with any racetrack, it should have been either Daytona or the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because, in my opinion, those are the two biggest races in either one of the sports. And obviously, Bristol's another big one. But
for NASCAR, absolutely.
If you're going to go to one of those venues, it probably should have been one of those two. In my opinion, but
I think
maybe
it been
Bristol
Indiana.
Was the only one that said, "Yeah,
We'll
go
do
ahead.
it." Right,
You can put a baseball field in the middle of this stadium."
Yeah,
right.
I think I've got to go with the first Field of Dreams game and the Alabama game.
Yeah,
I'm a big proponent of like they need to do these things at one time.
Yeah,
every time it's repeated so far, it's been very meh. Like even the first London series, Cardinals Cubs series, I thought was cool, but it was even done before that once. It was done with Boston and New York, and that one was awesome.
Sure.
I know there's a lot of controversy about the balls being juiced for offensive performance, but again, like that's to get new people. The offense needs to take.
Well, and I would say like I don't mind the idea of like them going to Japan to start the season.
I guess that can.
I didn't even think about that.
Those type of things
like, hit hard. Even I was excited about that.
Right.
One.
Even if you wanted to, like in my opinion, like even with London, why not pair a few teams up like Mexico and have them all going on at the same time frame? Because obviously fan bases are going to travel to a degree. I mean, I don't think full fan bases are headed out to Japan or places like that. But I think there's some things, and if you can do it early in the season where it doesn't become, problematic. I think sometimes with like the London series and even going down to Mexico, places like that, and even like with this in the Raceway, it's the middle of the season. And then you're also breaking up a series because they had played a couple games in Cincinnati, and then now we're going to do this one game. Which again, I think very cool concept. I think all the players would tell you the same thing. How cool is it to play in a racetrack? Things like that. Like, but I think if you just better ways, and now obviously a lot of scheduling has to go into that because when you're in Europe, obviously you got Premier League stuff that's going on, and that's going to trump
travel
it.
time too,
right?
Yeah.
All of that's going to trump it,
Yeah.
so you can't just say, "Hey, I want this date," and they're like, "Yeah," because they're like, "No, we got millions of other dollars coming in another direction." So,
and obviously it's really, really difficult to predict when they plan these things, which teams are going to be the best ones to watch because Atlanta just so happened to just absolutely suck this year.
Right.
And
if
so
Atlanta was good, you may have had a really fun series.
and as funny as it is, Atlanta won.
Right.
Like, who would have guessed?
But it was none of the big stars that you were expecting to see, unfortunately.
Because I think of the one Field of Dreams game that was the Cubs and was it Cincinnati also, the second one?
Yeah.
And they were just awful
it was
that
brutal.
year.
Yeah, it was cool to see, but at the same time, it was these are two of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah, nobody's watching. Nobody wants to watch.
Yeah, the Birmingham game where they did San Francisco and St. Louis, I think the historical premise of both of those teams made it better.
So.
And I think there are ways to go about that. I'd be interested to see if they try another Raceway.
Yep.
And grab other teams, because I think of potentially like doing a Cardinals Cubs series at Chicagoland up there if they're willing to do that.
Oh, that could be cool.
Because then you get the rivalry part of it, and also, and if you can, schedule the whole series there. Like that way you get like the full effect of it. Just make sure you have extra concessions. That's all I'm saying.
We're gonna start seeing like at a horse track. See them at Churchill Downs or something.
That would be hilarious.
There are some historic ballparks though that they could go play at still. That a lot of these wood bat leagues and some of the minor league teams and stuff still use some of them.
Yep.
Obviously they'd probably try to bring in some seating because there's just not going to be a whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about the Alabama one, that field had to be turned quite significantly. Like the outfield is like 500 something feet.
Yeah.
Or crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
we're not going to do that.
You can't do that. And then the backstop to back wall, I remember they were talking about was just like someone could on a bounce ball, someone could go from first to home because of how deep it was. So they're going to have to turn no matter what. So like pick some cool places.
And I mean, I understand, like, again, that's why I like the idea of the raceway, because you have built-in seating already. So you're going to have max capacity.
Sure.
Seating wise, as long as you construct the field in the right manner. Like, I thought they did well, and I think that's why too, to go back to your point, I won't belabor this, but that's why they went to a small track like that versus going to Daytona or somewhere like that, because then you're also going to have to build in seating because you're talking about a 2-mile track.
That's fair.
Versus a half-mile track.
Yeah. You have games going on simultaneously.
That would be something, right?
Dude, that could be kind of cool, though.
Kind of sick,
honestly.
And they've got enough space to do it in those tracks.
Well, I think about the WBC, how you've usually got at least 2 games going on at the same time, because I know there's
different fields.
I know it's 4 different time zones.
Yeah.
But like the 2 fields in the United States are happening within an hour. 1 field in I guess it's 2 fields in Asia is where it was.
How fun would it be to just like go back to like rec league for a little bit with like MLB, if they could find a complex where you have the 4 fields?
That would be pretty
kind of
sick.
like all together, and for like a weekend you could have
you hear the fans screaming
right from the other side, right?
On.
Like just something like that. I mean, I know logistically it would probably be an absolute nightmare because you're talking about 8 teams also that you got to facilitate for.
That'd be fun. I was thinking that maybe like some of the like big time college programs that have these larger stadiums, like a Tennessee or somebody that has a very rowdy crowd also, that you'd be able to pull in because you're wanting to connect more people and stuff to the game.
Pull a Savannah Bananas and like get a football field completely converted.
To me, you're going to see something like that happen because they're seeing the success that the Bananas are having.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to challenge that. The problem is I don't know. The build up for that series is going to have to be pretty big to match what the Bananas are getting in every stadium because they're only there for 3 days and then they're gone.
Right.
And maybe you can do like whoever wins the Super Bowl, MLB goes to that stadium that year once.
Well, it's a random
Kansas
host
City
spot,
every couple years.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, this does open the door for some neat collabs between sports, to some degree.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what MLB chooses to do with it, especially if they want to grow the game in America back. You're going to have to stretch yourself and do some things a little bit differently, not just with gameplay adjustments.
Sure.
But putting yourself in front of a younger fan base.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here, one thought, you could take a football stadium potentially and turn it into a baseball, like you said, and then maybe do like a 2-game thing where you're going to have baseball and then nightcap with basketball in the spring, like
cool
an
idea.
NBA series or something like that. You maybe be able to get something like that done.
Sounds like one of you guys need to set up a conference call.
I'm telling you, we got lots of ideas.
That's right. We can throw a bunch of stuff out there. If you're going to front the money, I'll set it up for you. So.
All right, let's do this. We are going to recap the trade deadline in the sense, and we're just going to kind of pick our 3 favorite teams in the NL and the AL in a sense of who won the trade deadline and is now taking their team and expected to go further. Maybe that's based on the expectation we had of the season, or maybe it's not changed.
Yeah.
But the 3 best teams that came out of the deadline, not ones that got great hauls for people that sold like Minnesota.
Sure.
They're not going to. They're not on my list or in my consideration.
No, I mean, I think we were. The goal is to look at teams that made themselves like
better.
either they weren't contenders. Now they're more contenders, or they just solidified their spot.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's do the three best teams that came out that made themselves better, and then the one team in each league that we're disappointed that came out of the deadline. So let's start with the AL. Brian, let's take you first, and let's go. What do you got?
Oh man, this was such a tough one for me, but I think my first one in the AL. I don't think they did anything like super sexy or fancy. But what Houston was able to pull off, I think just like, I just look at it and go, they're going to win the West and potentially be in the ALCS just because of a simple fact of bringing back Carlos Correa and then some of the small pieces that they added in there. And the question for me going into all of this was they had really no prospects to utilize, and yet they still got it done. Burn them. And they didn't get rid of either of the two guys. I mean, I knew Cam Smith wasn't going anywhere, but their other kid at second base, I thought was possibly going to have to be in on something for them to get return. And so for them not to have to turn him over as well, I'm like, that team is smart. And Crane, I got to give him props because he got on the phone with Minnesota and said, look, take this much money. And we'll take him. No questions asked.
Masterclass. By ownership, GM, like unbelievable. Like you said, we need you to be right here, and you will keep us under the luxury tax. Yeah. And they're like, we can't go above that, but we will go right up to that.
Exactly.
And Minnesota finally was like, all right, well, we need to get rid of Correa, and if you're willing, no one else is eating that much of his contract. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And I look at it like the only prospect that like I was like, man, I wish they didn't, but I understand why they did it was Ryan Gusto, the pitcher. That was the only guy they really gave up that gave me hesitation. And I think sneakily they got some really good returns. I mean, Urias from Baltimore to play third until or second base, the kind of that utility guy to slot in there because obviously you see Pena's slowly coming back. He's kind of going a game out, game in.
Right.
And I love that Correa said, look, put me at third. I want to play third base. He wasn't going to play third in Minnesota because, well, I mean, he probably could because let's be honest, Clayton's not going to play a full season. So, but anyway, his willingness to do that. And then I think Jesus Sanchez, getting him from the Marlins, I mean, was big because it fit that outfield left-handed bat for them.
And it wasn't costly.
Right. And I think once he settles in, I think the dude could potentially rake out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you got as a number 3?
I'll take Texas here. Texas, to me, may have had one of the most low-key great deadlines, especially whenever they were able to grab Merrill Kelly there at the end of the day. Everybody was wondering who was getting who, but you knew they were going to be going ultimately. It's just about where, and then Texas ends up nailing him down late to pair up with a couple of other moves. And that entire division, you saw some pretty savvy moves from everybody in that division on deadline day. They picked up another relief pitcher, which needed. Their starting pitching's been great, but they needed some other pitching. And then, you add Merrill Kelly to solidify that starting pitching. Huge get. Yeah. You get Phil Maton, who's having a very nice season for most of you Cardinals fans. You knew, and they slid him right in at the end of the day too, which was not insanely expensive for them either. The Hewer pickup, is what it is. I don't know. Who knows what he's going to be, but to me, they realized they still got that offense that was there a couple years ago. They've just got to keep Seager healthy is the big piece that keeps that team afloat. And so solidifying all that pitching, which was the question mark before the season, in my opinion, really rounded out the Rangers at the deadline.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw a couple honorable mentions, and I'll give my number 3. Tampa Bay did some of the sneakiest stuff ever.
Agreed.
And the names you look at, aside from Hauser, are going to be like, really? But something tells me, because it's Tampa, they're going to be studs. Yep. Or they're going to be flipped for something that's even
100%
bigger. Griffin Jacks for Taj Bradley is the weirdest, like, 1-for-1 swap.
Yeah.
A reliever for a controllable starter, which tells me Tampa is looking at a starting pitcher and wanting to give them up.
Yep.
It screams Cardinals, Arozarena,
sure,
and Liberatore. Maybe that's trauma as a fan. But at the same time, I wanted Taj Bradley so bad. And if all it took was a reliever, I'm like, Cardinals, why were you not on the phone?
Yep.
So they did some sneaky stuff. Texas is my other honorable mention. I like the Ty France move. Not Ty France, the Merrill Kelly move. You can never go wrong. He's going to be a great starter. He pitched in the World Series against them, so I find that just kind of, a little bit of irony.
Yep.
But my number 3 is actually Toronto.
Fair.
They needed some pitching really badly. They got Shane Bieber. We have no idea what he's going to look like. No idea. He hasn't pitched in like 9 months or something, 10 months. But if they can get him to his form, that's going to be great for them. Ty France, great, probably utility-ish, or at least a backup to give Vladdy some time off. But they've got a pretty good roster. They're one of the best in the AL right now. So they had to do something. They had to acquire something. Shane Bieber is a great pickup, but it also is just like, you don't know if it's going to work. But if it does work, it's going to be one of the best moves
100%.
Of the deadline. So they're my number 3. Yeah. What do you got as number 2, Brian?
For me, this was one that like I wrestled with because I did like what Toronto did. And like I said, with Houston, I really liked what they did, and I wanted to kind of put them higher in that sense. But both Houston and this team, I felt like didn't go out and maybe get like that legit superstar player that they could have used. But I think ultimately what they did end up doing really benefits their team. And so I have Detroit right here. I think a lot of people would be maybe like, they didn't really do a whole lot, but like they needed relief help. They got a ton of relievers.
That's every one of them that was out there.
Right. Like they just pulled as many as they could. We talked about it a little bit before we came on air, the Charlie Morton grab. I mean, it's expensive as far as salary wise for a player of his age. But what he's done over the last couple months seems like he's that guy. He's a proven guy in playoff time. So maybe there's some return there. And again, I think for me, they saved some of their key prospects.
True.
The only part that I would have pushed back on is I wish they had made a play for some sort of third baseman.
Yep.
For them, something that maybe created a little bit of punch offensively.
Yeah. We all knew one too.
But but we know come playoff time, which as long as they can right a little bit of the ship here, they're going to be dangerous in the playoffs just because of pitching now.
100%.
And now they've got a lot of extra ads. I think like the Paul Sewald deal that they got there could turn things around. I think, sneaky Kyle Finnegan is a great pickup for them.
Great pickup.
Montero questions kind of still out, because he can be super sporadic. But, again, we look at programs that know how to work with pitching, and Detroit's seemingly one of those
absolutely
teams that does that.
Yep.
So maybe they fix some of these guys that are a little bit kind of like, iffy, and then they become big producers. And so that's why they kind of catapulted even above Houston. Like, I think ultimately, like, if I were a betting man and it's Houston and Detroit going at each other, I might give the nod to Houston just because of experience and offense.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, you can't argue with what Detroit has done this year, even with the younger players.
Well, and I think the third base piece, I think they were so set on Suarez that when he moved, they were not willing to give up the players it was going to cost to get another third baseman that may be out there.
Which is interesting because the deal that's happened doesn't scream like
correct
crazy.
But, everybody asked for different things out of different teams.
Right.
Arizona may have been the sticking point was we have to have Max Clark in this deal. And Detroit's like, we're not moving him.
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, then give us Meadows or somebody. It's like, that's not happening either. So, Detroit is where they are right now because of the development that they've had. And so they don't really want to burn those guys. But at the same time, they had a lot of young pieces that were probably pretty intriguing to Arizona specifically in that deal. But yeah, so for me, actually, I had Houston slotted here, but I'll give you another team that I did like kind of some of the moves they had, and that was Kansas City. They're kind of a weird team. They're sitting right at the playoff picture, but they're a young team outside of, a couple players. They didn't give up a whole lot, but got some veterans that could potentially help them push into the playoffs. Like I said, they're sitting right there in the wild card. They ended up flipping their backup catcher for multiple players, which could pay huge dividends in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. Bailey Falter's not a bad pickup.
Right.
Like that was an underrated pickup. Like Gritch has just got a ton of playoff experience and just a lot of baseball experience in general to help, maybe Caglione and stuff throughout the rest of this year. And Yastrzemski was a huge pickup. If they do make a playoff push, that's a guy who for several years has kind of flown under the radar as a very solid ball player that's not in that superstar star area, but he's definitely a guy who always produces. So, I'll put Kansas City here. Probably would slot Texas ahead of them, but just so we can talk about them as well.
Yeah. I like what Texas did too.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had mentioned that. I think, they have the offense to compete as long as it kind of gets going and continues to go. And I think obviously everything's going to hinge on their pitching. I mean, Eovaldi is nasty. And he has found his form once again. And if you can have a 1-2 of DeGrom and Eovaldi, dear God, I don't want to face them. Right. I don't want to face them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they positioned themselves well, but they were kind of like an honorable mention for me.
If you think about Texas in 23, their rotation was Eovaldi and Montgomery, who they got at the deadline. And Scherzer, who they also got at the deadline. So they replaced it with Eovaldi, who's this year better, but same guy. DeGrom, a healthy DeGrom, and a Kelly replacing Scherzer with Kelly.
Yep,
that's nasty.
Well, and they've got some young pitchers that definitely have some intrigue with Kumar Rocker and Leiter and stuff. Whenever those guys are healthy, very interesting pieces that you may not realize could shut you down big time in the playoffs.
And it's an odd year. My number 2 team is, I really had a hard time deciding between Houston and the Yankees, but I think I'm going to go with the Yankees. I feel like it's unfair to not put them at the top given the weekend series, because if you take away the games played at the time of the trade, the pickups that they made with specifically Camilo Doval, Bednar, and Caballero. Now, Jake Bird is not meant to be this back-end guy. It's someone to give some length out of the bullpen, and he was having a fine year and probably cost nothing. But you add Doval and Bednar to your bullpen with Weaver, man, that's nasty when they're on. Now, we look at the series and we laugh like they lost this trade deadline because they all just blew up. But I feel like it's unfair to look at it that way in response to the deadline move that was made, in my opinion. But Houston would be my other pick because the Correa move, I feel like, just put back, the 2017.
Right.
Astros are here again, so whatever the Yankees did doesn't matter anyway. But I feel like the Yankees should belong in that number 2 spot for me.
Well, how funny was it, though, this weekend, too, that, and I'm just going to throw this out there just because it's fun, that Houston almost got in a brawl because of sign stealing.
Right. Yeah. Did you hear the comment from the guy on the broadcast was like, Houston getting mad for signs being stolen? Come on.
It was pretty good.
Especially since a lot of those guys are still on that team.
Especially he just got back to all of that. It was pretty good.
The announcer was like, come on, man.
The Yankees made a lot of moves.
Yeah, they did.
Which I just don't know that they moved the needle because, I mean, even they traded for Jose Carbo or however you pronounce it, name from Tampa, you know, and he comes out immediately, just blows a game. Like, they already had a horrendous defense. And, you know, like you said, all the pieces you traded for basically exploded this weekend.
Well, so I mean, that's the thing. Like, yeah, if you look at the results, oh, man, horrible moves. But on paper, prior to the games, if you look, like Camilo Duvall has been one of the best closers.
He's had a very nice year.
Bednar has a history of like, man, this guy's good. He's had a bad year last year, but it's got some stuff. Caballero is a good outfielder, and they needed some outfield help. It's just they so happened to just crap the bed all at the same time. But I also think, man, there's some weird stuff going on in that team right now too. So
it was super weird to me that Pittsburgh did not get more for Bednar. I thought, especially with Clase coming off the market, somebody would be willing to pay a higher price for him.
Because he was early in the day too.
He was one of the other guys that I saw as like a high end reliever, and the Giants got more back for Duvall than the Pirates had from Bednar.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's quite a bit more too. So.
GM to GM.
That's like I said.
I was going to say nobody's called
just
the Pirates smart as an organization.
Correct, and that's why we're sitting here going, why is Cruz still on that team?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like somebody could have called this.
Let's be honest. Even
Skeens
Skeens being on that team is not because they made the call. Like that was just a no-brain. You like. The moment that you got the first overall pick, you wrote that name down and just set it down.
The only
and so we're
team
good.
out of all 30 teams that would not have picked Paul Skeens 1-1 would have been the Angels, I think, in my opinion.
I don't know. They've done nothing but draft pitchers.
I was going to say, a few years ago,
the last 10 years.
their whole draft slot was nothing but pitcher.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But anyway, I'm not going to say a whole lot about the Yankees because I have them on a different list,
again,
and I will tell you why. I don't disagree with you in the sense of like those names.
Yes.
It's not them that I feel like that they fell apart at the trade deadline. It to me, and I won't go too far in this because I'll revisit it when we get to that spot. But this is not what the Yankees do. Yep. I think they're in an identity crisis.
100%.
Bad this year. And I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, they bought low on several guys and some positions they needed.
The cost for those guys are pretty low. I mean, I know Duvall was a little bit higher.
Right.
Who even knew Duvall was on the market, though?
That's
the other thing. Right.
Buster has obviously shown he's willing to make some moves. So if I was these teams and I'm looking at anybody in San Francisco,
I think he got nervous.
Logan Webb.
The Devers deal is not really.
Yeah. I'd watch Webb this offseason potentially.
Yeah,
I think the Devers deal is backfiring a little bit on them,
and
it's causing a little bit of panic there. But
that's also fair.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean the team just crapped the bed. Hit us with the number one.
All right, so for me, the number one, which I think is going to be across the board because they just went out and did exactly what they said they wanted to do, and that's Seattle.
Yep.
I mean, they got their first baseman right away in Naylor. I mean, that was literally probably the first move,
honestly,
of the trade deadline, even though it was a week or so before.
Yep.
And I wrote them off when they made that move, and it didn't have Suarez as part of it.
Yep.
I wrote them off, and I was like ecstatic when I heard the news that Detroit wasn't going to let him leave.
Yep.
Because I thought he was going to be in Detroit. I had called it.
Sure.
And I was like, that one's for me. And I think I got a little too overconfident on that one. But I mean, what they did is exactly what they were supposed to do. I mean, they got a couple relievers in the process, which we all know their pitching's great, but they added power to a lineup that vastly needed some more bats.
Yep.
And in doing that, it seemingly has come at the right time because Julio is back apparently. Randy's starting to find his way back a little bit.
It's beautiful.
Right? And the big dumper's not changing who he is.
True.
So, I mean, you talk about adding those two bats, and at this point, like, I don't even really care.
Rosarena is popping off like crazy, too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And I don't even care if Naylor hits for power at this point. As long as his average stays up, I've got these other guys that are hitting for power all of a sudden again.
Yep.
So it's like that lineup becomes nasty, and then you throw in the mix that if they can get their pitching going at the right time, who knows? This could be the year for Seattle.
I'm telling you.
Now, they've got a massive mountain in Houston to climb,
True.
but they don't need to climb Houston and to get into the playoffs,
True.
and that should be their focus right now.
Agreed. Yeah.
Man, Fangraphs doesn't have the new acquisitions listed on their team yet.
It's interesting with Seattle. That was my number one team as well. They've with the dumper, what he's been doing this year. If they came out of this deadline without getting more power, would have been probably the biggest fumble. About as bad as Aaron Boone not putting up some of those guys to hit. Like they did everything they needed, like you said, and the hitters are hitting. They did not give up any of their big time pitchers. This is exactly the recipe that they needed to make that run. And so we're looking at what I thought was going to be the AL Central and being an absolute juggernaut is turning into the AL West, especially because you could watch that Ace team make a run down the stretch of this season, make some things very interesting too. So, I mean, yeah, it was a huge splash from Seattle. If you're a Seattle fan, you got to be so excited right now. Suarez capping everything off. And the deal was done early in the day, so it didn't cost nearly as much either. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. This is a huge get for Seattle. Like I said, you didn't give up Gilbert. You didn't give up any Wu or Miller or any of these guys. Like I was like, okay, like you've got what you need now, so get it done. And Julio hitting, huge piece of that.
Right. Oh,
Huge,
100%.
Yeah, Seattle was my win too. I mean, yeah, they added what they needed. I think it was a big deal because is Dipoto, is that their GM's name?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. He's always been so gun shy at acquiring bats. Like Arozarena was last year, and it was it was kind of like, I mean, that's going to kind of move it a little bit, but like you're wasting all this pitching still. But then they got the big bats that they needed.
Yep.
Now I'd be interested to see what Suarez does, just simply because he was there before, and he wasn't that amazing.
Sure.
I mean, he had a couple of years where he was a stud for 2 years for him. Now, defensively, he's a different player. So maybe
I guess I'm more meaning if you look at his time in Seattle versus time in Arizona, that's a little bit of a different player.
Sure.
Now, you never know what growth happens, right? You know, every year for a baseball player is going to be a little bit different.
True.
So, but I mean, at the same time, he's being surrounded by
the big piece.
Raleigh, Arozarena is just going nuts.
Right.
J-Rod. Yeah, it's a good pickup. It didn't cost a lot too, so.
The top five of that lineup's going to be great now.
And it's not going to cost them a lot long term either, because chances are they're not going to re-sign him in the offseason. So it's a boomer bust.
Definitely should.
As far as what they're going to do. I mean, if he loves it there and gives them a sweetheart of a deal, maybe.
Yeah.
But
yeah. A couple honorable mentions, like sneaky trades to me. Well, I guess I'll go to let's do the disappointment first before we do that. So, like, who were you most disappointed in the AL?
Like, just one clear cut. All right. So I mentioned, like, they're not my most disappointed. So I'll throw a couple names
of the teams that should have gotten better.
Yes. Yeah. So to me, that's the Yankees, and it wasn't the deals that they made. It was the deals they didn't make.
Yep.
Like, I expected them to be in on Suarez. There was really not a lot of mention to that. I mean,
I know. Mention McMahon.
Right. Yeah. Like, I know they got McMahon early, but like, to me, it's like, that's not even.
It didn't move the needle at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything for them. They needed starting pitching. They really did nothing on that front.
Except DFA, Marcus Stroman.
Right. They subtracted pitching and
unbelievable.
And then, again, I understand the dynamic of Duvall and Bird and even Bednar. Like, I think that's great, but I'm going, are you even going to get to them with leads?
100%.
Because they did nothing offensively. Now, who's to say that in a month, Bellinger, Judge comes back, but that's not looking.
Well, that's the thing. Belly's been kind of actually playing pretty well, but with Judge going down, it's
just a vastly different team. And like I said, this is a team for me in the Yankees. As much as I don't like them, I expected them to make this big splash. Like I expected almost, and I'm not saying this was ever even in conversation, but then to somehow work out a deal with the Nationals where they're sending Dominguez and a couple other players, and all of a sudden now they have James Wood in left field. Like that's the kind of like attention that I thought was going to be played out, and it just never came. And I think they swung and missed. And now I'm not in their room, so I don't know what people were asking for. They came out very early on and said they weren't going to trade their 2 best prospects. And so I wonder if teams just wrote them off right from the beginning. Possible. And they had to go to other sources. And so for me, that was the team that was contending that I was like, because if they'd have made 1 or 2 big moves like that, like I would have even – like when you didn't go after Suarez, like I'm like, if nothing else, if defense is what you're after, McMahon is not like he's a good defender, but why not call St. Louis and go, we want Nolan Arenado because of the defensive side? Because St. Louis is going to eat the majority of that contract. Now, Nolan has to agree, but I think he would because Goldie's there.
Yeah. So my argument for that would be McMahon won the Gold Glove in 23 or in 24. Ke'Bryan Hayes won in 23, both of which were better, younger, more controllable options.
To me, it was Ke'Bryan Hayes. If they were going to make that deal, the big deal that I was waiting for them to splash.
That's what I think.
Prior to the McMahon deal, if they were going to end up losing out on Suarez, was getting Ke'Bryan Hayes and O'Neal Cruz in a deal. It was going to be costly, but that was the type of splash I expected the Yankees to move.
It wasn't costly, though, because Ke'Bryan Hayes didn't...
Well, Ke'Bryan didn't cost it. It's going to be O'Neal Cruz because the Pirates actually value him.
Right.
But he was exactly what they needed. Now, given he's a bad defender, too, but... he's got a ton of power, would have absolutely raked there.
Switch hitter.
Exactly. You would have... And brought in fans. That would have been a huge get right there. But, they kind of fumbled it.
Yeah, and then, this is a team that I would consider is not competing, but, I think the biggest loser in the AL flat out all around was the Angels because they did absolutely nothing. They didn't... Well, I mean, and they didn't even buy well. No. And they didn't get rid of any of their contracts. To me, I'm like... if I'm the owner, I don't know what you're doing. I'd just sell the team, move on, because this is not good, and it's not getting any better anytime soon.
Got Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin.
Right.
Well,
it's amazing.
Right. Why are you trading for Andrew Chafin? This is a guy that may actually be a serviceable reliever
a 35-year-old and a 38-year-old. Right. You're not.
We don't want you to have them, so we are going to get
But we're going to trade for him, so you can't do it.
We're going to take the money and we're going to take everything.
To me, when they made that deal, I thought they were going to do exactly what Pittsburgh did with Rodgers.
Flip him immediately.
Flip him the next day. And that just didn't happen. And it's it actually reminded me, I saw it come up the year prior when he got traded. He's like, well, at least I didn't get traded out to California. And then he gets traded out to California.
Dude,
I was
Andrew
that's
Chafin's
a tough blow.
Funny. He's a funny dude. He's a good follow. What do you got?
It's the Red Sox. They gave up, I think, Blaze was actually a great pickup for St. Louis because if he is potentially what he was projected to be, he's going to be a steal of a pick for Steven Matz.
Have you seen our development program?
Well, that's the big piece of it. So, and then
he has the same batted ball profile as Jordan Walker.
See where that's going, right?
Well, never mind. The Red Sox actually won that deal. And so Dustin May actually is not a terrible pickup.
No, not at all.
But they give up Tibbs in that deal. I just don't know why Boston was a team that had to make a splash because they're sitting weirdly in the middle of the wild card hunt right now, which prior to the year, they looked like the most talented team. Then they moved Devers, moves them back a bit. Talent-wise, Roman Anthony's not popped off quite as much as you would have hoped from the power standpoint and stuff. He's doing all right overall, but Boston, to me, probably needed to make at least 2 more moves that they just flat out didn't. And I won't get into all of it, but they missed out on Joe Ryan, and that deal had to get done for Boston. Minnesota absolutely fire-selled everything.
Right.
And just to hit on that point, I've never once in my life ever seen a team send so many players away in one day. That was the craziest.
Only 10 players. Was it 10 players remaining on their active roster?
So crazy.
They got rid of 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 10 players remaining.
The craziest thing I've ever experienced. And to their credit, they knew it was time to burn it down, and they did so. But I do wonder if Tim's point on Byron Buxton, had he not ended up with a rib injury, would Buxton been out in L.A. or New York or somewhere had that not happened? And if they would have moved Buxton, they had to have moved Joe Ryan at that point.
Can you imagine what Buxton thinks right now? Because he wouldn't have an idea that that's what they were going to do, right? Like,
well, he probably thought they'd make a couple small moves.
Yeah,
like, okay, maybe we lose one guy that hurts.
Bader's
probably gone. Durant's probably getting
there were
moved,
pieces that you knew weren't going to be there.
Yep.
I mean, once the Clase news broke, Durant was an absolute
100%.
sell because of what you're going to get in return.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he is arguably the best reliever on the market, bar none, at that point.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought when that went down, I was like, okay, so they're just going to, like I said, make a couple moves, and then you're going to slot Griffin Jacks into his role. And then they end up moving him, and I'm like, okay, well, never mind. So, it was crazy. But, they didn't get Joe Ryan. That was a huge miss.
I don't hate the Dustin May move because of what he can become.
True. If he's healthy.
You don't really know what Tibbs is going to be, and they have a lot of young players in that category. So, for me, that's why I didn't throw them into They were like that middling team. I agree with you. Like, I feel like there were a lot of moves left on the table that they should have done. Like, you know, they could have solidified first base a little bit more. Yeah. That may come back to haunt them.
Yep.
Because Anthony left tonight's game before the game even started with an injury. Yes. So, like, that's something that could really come back and I think bite them long ways. I agree. When I saw the news break about Ryan, even though it was a mistake.
It ended up being a mistake.
That was crazy.
But
I about cried.
I was just like, how do we, like, I knew we weren't buyers, but I'm like, that guy comes available, every team becomes a buyer 100%. At that point.
Yep. Like, if you are anywhere in we are looking to win in the next 3 years, you should have been in on that guy, 100%.
And I think they missed out because I think they could have traded Durant and got an absolute haul in return. Like, I look at calling San Diego, you could have gotten Durant to San Diego, and you might have gotten the haul that the Athletics got
100%
in return, and you would have set yourself up for life after Story at shortstop and a lot of other options.
Yeah, because we didn't even know Mason Miller was available. Because last year they were like, no, we're not getting rid of him at all. But, you know, well, I mean, that's for the next part. Boston, to me, is my disappointed, mostly the same reasons. The Dustin May move is fine, but it should not have cost Tibbs.
Oh, no, yeah.
Tibbs
it was too expensive.
Needed to have been a part of the Joe Ryan deal. Now, to the credit, I guess I should give some grace to Boston because they had something in place, but because Minnesota was fire sailing everything, they didn't get back to him in time or something like that. Because it was, I remember in the interview, it was just like, we had something started, but we were not hearing back, and so I pulled out because they were just selling everybody else.
And you can't get off the phone with a Joe Ryan doesn't come available every day.
I am blowing my man's phone up. I don't care if he's answering or not.
When you saw Minnesota make 3 moves, it's time. It's go time. They are selling.
And I agree. I think they pivoted to Dustin May because we're like, well, he's not getting back to me. We got to get somebody. May will probably be a really good reliever for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Keep him healthy for the length of the season. They're going to make the playoffs.
They're going to bounce between him and Walker the rest of the year.
Walker in the playoffs, though, that's a different picture.
Right. I would potentially throw him in more starting opportunities.
Well, and that's why I think that they screwed up, because the Dodgers literally announced a couple days prior that they were moving Dustin May to be a reliever.
Yeah. Right.
That should not have cost you 2 semi-valuable pieces.
No.
Dodgers are smart, though.
Yeah, they are.
Savvy, man.
Yeah, so, I'm disappointed in them because they could have done so much more. I mean, at the same time, like, if you're not being sold what you want, I don't know. Giving up Blaze Jordan for Steven Matz, Cardinal fan, they got fleeced for that.
I don't.
But
disagree.
again, I mean, it's kind of weird. Chaim Bloom drafted him at the same time, so you're like, oh yeah, we'll get rid of this guy.
You're hoping he's not too much in love.
I don't know what
having
Steven Matz is going to do for them. You know what
also
I mean?
True.
Like
he could be a very valuable pickup.
He's
that's
going
to be under the radar.
Yeah,
but
he's going to be a Charlie Morton type figure, which that's great, but costing you Blaze Jordan.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, so that's for me. Any sneaky pickups before we move on to the NL? That was just like a weird, like, whoa.
Well, I mean, I think, and again, this will kind of pivot into the National League a little bit, but we mentioned
AL
it.
specific.
Yeah, I'm just saying what the Athletics were able to do.
Massive.
I think is massive
Leo
for
DeVry
them.
just showing up randomly.
Right. I think they are setting themselves up when they get to Vegas. They may be a team to watch out in the West.
Well, and I'd say that deal cemented that you are going to see Brent Rooker get moved some point in the next either deadline or off season, most likely, because like I said, he's just older than everybody else.
Right,
they love Brent Rooker, and I think he actually enjoys playing on that team. But age-wise, it doesn't make sense. Sell him right now before his value starts to drop, and bring in some more.
You imagine if they make a move in the offseason to collect Joe Ryan, and then what are we talking about for the Athletics?
You'll hear me crying on the side, man.
A trade I'm really surprised and disappointed that didn't happen is Severino get moved.
Yeah.
He would have been great like in Toronto or something.
I think they were just so shocked from that Mason Miller deal. They're like, we're just going to call it a day. We don't have to do anything else today.
They had to pay him because they were going to get sued.
I agree.
So it was like, what? And you could have gotten some good stuff for him. But yeah, anyway. All right, let's jump to the NL because this one's the spiciest of them all. Brian, hit us with any honorable mentions you have, then your number 3 team.
Oh, man. Honorable mentions. I think there was, like you said, I think there was a lot that went on. Like, even though they're, not necessarily competing in it, like, I love what Arizona did.
Yeah.
I think I wish they'd have done one more move. Like, I'm still not sold that Gallen's there long term for them. So it's like at least get something out of that. But overall, great. I'll shout out our Cardinals. They made the right call in moving the players that they moved. Again, I think they fell short just because
I agree.
I think there are some players that should have been moved. And I highly expect those names will come back up in the offseason and probably end up at some other places. Sure. So what they did was really, really good. I think the 3 teams that ultimately kind of won out. I like what Miami did in the moves they made, even though they're not going to make my top 3. And so I settled at 3, and I was kind of shocked that I settled here. But I settled with Cincinnati at 3.
Okay.
And
I am shocked by that.
Because, I don't know why, but I love the addition of Ke'Bryan Hayes.
I think that is a great pickup for that team.
They didn't, they're young enough, they didn't have to do a whole lot. They added another pitcher in Zach Liddell from the Rays, to give them depth. He's obviously not going to be their top 3.
Yep.
But he gives them depth to take some of that weight off the younger guys at the top. And again, what they've been able to do, and I've said it all along, they're going to be up and down, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go back and forth all season. But if they find a way to snag that 3rd wild card spot, they're going to be a dangerous team come playoff time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what they were able to do kind of really did help me.
Yeah.
And that's why I ended up landing there with them.
That's good. They're an honorable mention for me, but I'm interested. they're right there in the wild card. So
yeah, I don't hate Cincinnati there. I thought the moves they made. I thought when they made a couple of those moves, I thought they were going to make one more. You know, and don't know what that would have looked like, but one other piece potentially.
Cruz with Key Brian Hayes.
Yeah,
maybe if they were willing to trade in. That was a big piece. Like you got Key Brian Hayes in the division, and it didn't cost you hardly anything.
Right.
So
like I went back and forth with Philly here.
I agree
because like for me, what Philly did is exactly what they needed. Like I loved what they did.
They just didn't make a lot.
But it was just like Harrison Bader's like, like he'll help them, and it'll be great for him. I mean, obviously getting Duran is like, but they also had to give up Mick Abel to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's why I ended up Cincinnati gave up nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I catapulted Cincinnati right there.
I had Cincinnati as an honorable mention category, along with Miami. I was not aware of the run that Miami's been on, and I mean they're sitting right outside the wild card picture at this point.
They are.
They
crazy.
Did not get worse at the deadline, and they didn't move Kyle Stowers, which is a huge part of that. So I had them sitting outside. I did have Philly slotted here. And I 100% agree with you. I was sitting here like, Philly made the moves they had to make.
Right.
Duran, huge pickup. They've already shown it. Great pickup. Bader, actually, Tim kind of pointed it out. I didn't realize how good of a season he actually was having up there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He was moving the needle more than I thought. But to me, they sold a little low to get an outfielder. Or bought a little low to get an outfielder because of the window they're in right now.
Like as opposed to Cedric Mullins?
Well, not even that. Like when you heard Cleveland was actively shopping Stephen Kwan. And I don't know what happened for all the teams that were looking for left fielders, but how do you not make that happen in some degree? Because if they're willing to move, I'm not saying that they would have sold him super cheap. But they're willing to take less than market value.
I don't know. That speaks more to me that Cleveland was asking something outrageous.
I think Cleveland was asking a fair amount. The fact that he wasn't getting moved, which kudos to them because he's probably one of the most underrated players in the league right now, given the production you're getting on both sides of the ball. But to me, if you are moving Mick Abel in that Duran deal, you move whatever it takes to get Kwan out there in the outfield, and maybe you still get Bader to put out there because their outfield has been poor enough that they could have used a deal like that. They're in this window that's probably 2 years at most. You go for the big splash because you're not going to be in this spot for at least 5 to 6 more years at least if you're Philadelphia. So like I said, the moves they made were right. They didn't do anything wrong within those deals, so I did put them at 3 because their deals were better than some others. Duran moves the needle in the backside big time. Manning could be a low-key pickup for him. That didn't cost you much at all to pick him up because Detroit was going to DFA him anyways. So not a bad pickup. Like I said, Bader's having a nice season, not a spectacular, but a nice season, but not enough because of what some other teams did in the NL.
Yeah, for me, Philly's my number 3. Milwaukee is my honorable mention.
Oh,
just because you look at the names that Milwaukee made, you're like, huh? But then at the same time, the same way I said about the Rays, then you look at the names and you're like, oh, Milwaukee made that? Huh. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but like
Montgomery's on the IL. Montgomery's on the IL.
Yeah, they're not coming back either. That was not moves for this year.
No, I mean
those are for future.
I mean, Montgomery's contract's over this year.
Danny Jansen, maybe.
So it's like, wait a second. If you're gonna pick up a player and take some money for no reason, that screams to me no.
Yeah, but I mean, it was basically for a player to be named later. That's both of those guys.
And Danny Jansen's an interesting pickup.
Yeah,
they're not honorable mention. I didn't say that they made some good moves.
No,
I'm just like, wait a second. Milwaukee made some of these moves. That's interesting.
It is for me, I was shocked that they moved Cortez.
I was just shocked that they could move Cortez.
Yeah, like I guess that's like I just didn't like. I'm like.
When I saw that deal, I was like,
who's making that move?
Before I was like, wait, what?
Right. I'm like, who's making that move? But
fair enough.
I mean,
our number 1 spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, Philly belongs in my number 3. Duran, man, he's gonna be nasty. And like, if you think about all the high leverage relievers that were moved, you think about the Yankees getting Duvall, and then you look at Duran, you're like, whoa.
To me, they probably should have grabbed, because it didn't cost Toronto much. They probably should have brought back an old friend in Sir Anthony Dominguez.
Mm-hmm.
Would have made a lot of sense in the back end of that bullpen.
I didn't mention that for Toronto.
He knows the system. He knows the city. People there loved him when he was there. And then, like I said, they probably could have a Phil Maton or somebody like that would have made a lot of sense there.
Maton would have been great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my number 3. Number 2, we're all going to be number 1 and number 2 are all going to be the same.
Teams,
Same
I think,
two
just
teams,
different spots.
Let's talk about it.
For me, my number 2 is San Diego right here.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I like what they did. I don't know that it was the best thing for them overall. Like, I mean, when you start looking at the prospect haul that they released, and I mean, we know what Preller does. Like, he has no care in the world for his farm system.
Yep.
Like, so I kind of expected
it's the closest thing he has to children.
Right.
And he's getting rid of them.
Right. I mean, he's like, you get a prospect and you get a prospect. I mean, he's just throwing them around. I mean, the Miller deal shocked me because, again, I know we had talked about, like, what would it look like to call and ask for Miller. I didn't realistically think it was going to happen. No. And so when I saw that come across, I was like, good for them, until I saw DeVries on that list. And I'm like, I don't know if that's good for them long term. Like, I mean, it helps them now, which that's what he's all about, but it does not move the needle down the road for me in that regard, because Mason Miller screams to me as another reliever that's going to end up on the IL.
Could.
Quite a bit.
Especially the way that Schulte uses relievers.
Right.
Well, the big piece there is they're talking to extending him out and making him a starter potentially. So
oh my gosh.
That would be interesting. I agree. I mean, you're definitely going to have to drop that velo some.
Right, because that's just not going to happen. Like,
he's already injury prone.
Right. I love the Laureano and O'Hearn move, but they're not like this big, massive jump. O'Hearn's probably the bigger, obviously, of that because of the bat potential that's there. But you're also stuck now asking Schilt to figure out a lineup day by day because they've got to platoon a lot of these guys. And Schilt hasn't been super good with that in the past because he's a very veteran-laden coach, so he defers to the veterans more than some of the other guys. I thought Freddie Fermin was a good pickup, but again, not somebody that's necessarily going to change their tide come playoff. So, like, for me, like, I look at up and down the list and I'm like, there's not like any proven playoff performer that they added, and that's where their weakness lies. Yeah. Now, I love the moves that they made, but I don't know that it changes their season all that much. I think they're going to fight for a wild card. Yep. And I think they're going to get bounced in the first round, and I don't think anything's going to change.
By the Cardinals.
I don't think the Cardinals are going to be playing, so.
My predictions. Michael?
We're on the same two teams, but I'll go with the Mets just because I thought that the Padres moved the needle more. But like the Phillies, the Mets made every move they needed to, and they got good ones.
That's
the Cedric Mullins piece. Like, they said they wanted a center fielder who could hit and could actually play center field, so we don't have Brandon Nimmo or Jeff McNeil out here running around playing center field and not having any clue what they're doing. Cedric Mullins is an elite defender, a guy who's shown some pop and has shown pop recently. Yeah. And it was not insanely expensive. Did give up 3 players, but they were low end. It was nothing crazy. Gregory Soto, decent move, not bad at all. The Rogers move was a nice move by the Mets.
That was the winning move, in my opinion.
That was I didn't realize how nice of a season. I knew he was having a good year, but I didn't realize how nice of a season he was having. Which at the same point, how much of that was just because San Francisco's not quite as hitter friendly as some other ballparks. But Helsley's the big piece because now you have a 1-2 punch with Diaz, who's having a very good year, and Helsley, who I think moves the needle probably the most. Of all those moves, but having that 1-2 punch where you're not having to wear Diaz out in the playoffs will pay big dividends.
Even in the regular season, they can start to rest him now.
Yeah, and it's
going to be better for Helsley too, because like you've said several times, the Cardinals have gone stretches where Helsley doesn't pitch for a week, and it's like, oh, of course this guy's a little shaky when he gets out there. The guy hasn't seen an actual hitter, and you're throwing him out there against Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, what do you expect? So, I mean, you tell me they're the number one team, I'm not going to be upset because they had a nice one, but
So, for me, I'm going to put the Padres at second place.
Sure.
And they got better, but it's a weird one. I think we not obsessed, but I think we get enamored with Padres trades because of volume.
Sure.
Yeah.
Preller is a guy that's, I don't give a rip, and it's really entertaining. Everybody
100%.
Everybody loves watching that guy make deals and everything, but they're kind of like, if you really think about it, the only two good trades were O'Hearn and Mason Miller. To me, Freddie Fermin is kind of like, they're adding a weird catcher that's like kind of okay.
When you already have Diaz, they both
defensively,
profile
he's good,
the same way.
But the thing about adding catchers is you're introducing him to all of these new pitchers that he's got to get used to. Is he a better hitter than Diaz? Yeah, by like a little. Is he better defensively? Maybe by like a little. I don't know. That was a weird move for me.
Yep.
But that was one of the first moves, right? Obviously, the blockbuster is Mason Miller because nobody knew he was available.
Right.
Well, I mean, media
not
didn't
that
know he was
available.
Not that available. But I mean, San Diego gave up everything they have.
Yeah.
They don't have any minor league teams anymore. They're all gone.
Yeah.
They're holding open tryouts.
That's actually the Little League World Series games that are happening right now. They're playing for a chance to go play for the minors.
There.
Cortez move is like what?
Right.
Yeah.
For me, like, JP Sears. Sure. Fine.
I think those moves were made thinking Cease was going to be gone.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
and then
a good
they
point.
did not get the deal done with Cease.
Yeah. The thing about Mason Miller is they already had one of the best bullpens in baseball.
And he's not even being used as a closer anymore. He's being used 7th, 8th inning.
Yep.
He should be because Suarez is kind of shaky. But yeah, the volume of it is entertaining and really good. But I'm with you, Brian. It's just kind of like some of them are good, but like man, Leo DeVries, you could have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, you could have gotten anybody for him. I look at that and go, if
Aaron
that's
Judge?
the case, why did you not go after Joe Ryan?
I will say one of my favorite tweets I saw through the whole day was this random guy that was said, Leo DeVries there's probably only 2 players that you would be willing to make a move for to trade that guy. And he said, coming back later, he's like, in case any of you were wondering, Mason Miller and JP Sears actually were those 2 guys on my list.
JP Sears, though, like what?
Right.
Didn't they make a deal the day before too? I'm trying to look at the thing. I'm not seeing it, so I guess it was all that day. But yeah, for me, the volume of it made it entertaining. But when you look at the names, you're like, I think about the manager and the new stuff that he's got. Like, it kind of complicates it a little more because you got O'Hearn and Laureano, and Wagner, and Quintana.
Right. And now,
what are you going to do with all that?
Right. And some of those guys are going down to the minor leagues. They're not going to be up. Like, Laureano, like, I think is a solid defensive help in left field, but it doesn't help you offensively.
Fair.
And so again, that's why I put him at second, and I catapulted the Mets because of some of the same reason you said. But I think the reason why they went to number 1 for me is simply because they did what they needed to do, made the splash with Helsley and Mullins, and they didn't give up any of their prospects. They did not give up a lot. Right. Like, I mean, they gave up players because they had to, But I mean, you talk about Luis Acuna is still there.
Yep. They didn't move
Beatty didn't go anywhere, which I
Yep.
thought for sure if they're going after a legitimate center fielder, that's going to be the guy
Yep.
that has to be a part of that. And of course, they swindled Baltimore out of that, knowing again,
It's a rental.
right? It's a rental, so that's why again, makes sense. But they're Baez might be the best player that they ultimately gave up.
Yes,
and it's a
100%.
flyer on whether or not he's really even going to be legit.
20?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's
It's a
single A.
It's a flyer. So like for them,
He's a top 100. Which
he was.
He was.
And he's not now, but
For a rental reliever, now granted, Johan Duran type of rental reliever for sure, but
right.
that's a little bit. It's not Leo DeVries.
No. And that's what I'm saying. Like for me, like that's
a win-win trade in my opinion.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Agreed.
you gave up what you needed to give up to get a guy that's going to help you win this year. And I think honestly, with the moves that they made, like I really think ultimately, I think them and Philly put themselves right in the category, if not a step above LA.
That was the piece for me. So they both got better 100%. The Dodgers did not. And with the Mets, though, with making these moves because they hadn't had to give anybody up, and none of those deals went down super late in the day. To me, they were another team that had to have been on the phone with the Twins and said, "We need Joe Ryan. What's it going to cost?
Right.
You can have Acuna, you can have Beatty, you can have both of them in this deal." Whereas they were getting shut down by some of these other teams for top end prospects. And both of these guys have seen serious MLB playing time and have played decent through stretches of being up in the league. So I guess maybe I held that against them a little bit. And like I said, they did move the needle, but Philadelphia moved the needle enough that they're still sitting head to head.
Yeah.
To me, that's why I went with San Diego, because the moves they made, I think, did move them enough to solidify what they are for sure, at least a wild card team. But the Dodgers are sliding, and I think that San Diego may catch LA with the way that, and Dodgers just keep having guys get hurt. Ohtani just a cramp last week, to me, screams that's going to turn into something more. Freeman's been hit or miss. Mookie's been atrocious. And they just, like I said, they just keep losing pitchers left and right. And you sent a guy who's been hurt his entire career away, but he was actually pitching this year. So they could have used the pitching depth right now. So
Yeah.
But for me, San Diego moved that needle more. Yes, they have a great relieving core, but when a Mason Miller becomes available, it'd be interesting to see if they do move him to be a starter, to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works, and you see guys who are traditionally relief guys that are throwing super hard, they drop down their speed a little bit, and then they pitch better as a starter. Like, okay, I could see it, but it also may not pay back for him at all.
Jordan Hicks is a good example.
Jordan Hicks
of
may
that.
just completely explode in your face. So, but I thought JP Sears was a very underrated piece of that, because Sears is actually a very valuable pitcher. I agree with you. Cease not moving is kind of weird, but that helps them for this year overall. And that's what this screams, is we are going all in for this year. That's why they gave up so much to get O'Hearn and Laureano in that deal. But to me, both those guys, I throw them in the starting lineup ahead of Luis Ariz and a couple of those other guys anyways, as everyday players. So they're all in this year. And the Fermin piece, it was super weird to see the move, but then I looked and saw their two catchers both have negative WAR this year, and he's got like a 1.8 or something. So at least he's valuable at some point. Where they have two aging catchers that are literally not providing basically any value at all to the team. Nestor Cortez, weird one. It may have been more that they were trying to get Quintana in that deal just so they had somebody else to flip in the offseason. But that's the only thing I can come to on that one. But the big big moves is why I'm going with San Diego, because I think potentially those could move the needle a lot for them versus, like I said, the Mets and Phillies moved the needle for sure, but they were already kind of solidified in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, given Miami could make things interesting in that division, and probably games I would have said, that you may see the Phillies and the Mets both sweep the Marlins, late in the season to help them. Now the Marlins may be kind of a little thorn in their back, but San Francisco sold, and they're falling. LA, like I said, did not do anything. They didn't even make a move on Nolan Arenado, which to me was just a slam dunk. It was an easy move to make.
I wish.
It just didn't come together, so I didn't understand that at all. To me, LA said, we're not doing anything this year, which is weird to see the Dodgers do because they just haven't done that. But yeah, I'll give San Diego the nod, but I'm not upset with going with the Mets at 1 either because they made very solid moves.
Yeah,
100%.
I think out of the 3, the Mets are the ones that got the best out of the 3, in my opinion. Phillies being the second, and then the Padres being the third. Let's do disappointment. Then I want to go back to something you said in the NL. Who is one of the teams they're most disappointed by?
Yeah, I'll do all 3 right here because this is just it's easy this way for us. For me, I think probably the bottom, like the one that I'm least disappointed in, would have been Pittsburgh. I just think they missed out on some opportunities. I think they could have moved some more players. Like I look at like O'Neal Cruz. I think even Brian Reynolds would have been a good piece to move.
Brian Reynolds, a great move
to to be able. So they kind of hit there. For me, the second was Chicago.
Yep.
I think they needed to make a bigger splash in the starter market. I didn't hate the deals that they made.
Yep.
I expected them knowing that there's no guarantees with Tucker, at least unless he's having some conversations behind the scenes that we're not privy to. You're not guaranteed next year with him.
Yep.
And while you've got the ascension of players like PCA and Michael Bush and those players that are really playing well this year, I felt like they needed to capitalize. And I think they missed out. I said it. I think they still should have made a play for Gallen. I don't know what the offer was or what Arizona was asking, but it didn't seem like they were asking a whole heck of a lot for other players.
Right.
So to me,
I would say Kelly was not that expensive.
Right. So I'm looking at it going, why did you not do something? And then obviously the biggest disappointment, we already talked about it, for me is LA. And it's kind of the same reason I had with the Yankees in the sense they have some glaring holes.
Yep.
And they did nothing to address that. Legitimately did nothing but move a potential depth piece in Dustin May that was a reliever, potential starter, depending on how many more pitchers get injured for you.
Correct.
And so
they kind of got a haul for.
I don't hate it, but it doesn't help them this year.
Yeah.
And so, I don't hate the move. That's another move that I think ultimately between Boston and LA could be a win-win on both sides.
For sure.
Yeah.
But they just they needed outfield help.
Yep.
Didn't do anything and now Tommy Edmonds on the IL.
Yep.
That's a big loss for them as far as defensive placement, whether he goes out to center field, second base, wherever they're putting him. You don't solidify a center field role for anybody when you had pieces in place.
And you got rid of an outfielder.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I think for the first time in a while for the Dodgers, I think they did take some swings, but I think they missed.
Yeah.
Because people are starting to see, I think people like the potential in their arms.
Yep.
But they're nervous that their arms aren't going to amount to anything because of injuries, because they're watching them get consistently injured. So I think those pieces that they were trying to dangle, like Bobby Miller and a Gavin Stone, people are going, we're not giving you as much for them because we don't know how long they're going to be healthy.
Yeah.
Now, and
you know who's going to save their season, though? Luke and Baker.
Highly possible, honestly.
We were talking about that before you came in, and I'm like, watch, somehow he ends up on the playoff roster
for real,
as a bench
off.
right-handed bat and just goes
make
crazy.
A good play.
Right. He's just going to go crazy.
Disappointment?
To me, there was actually several. You didn't mention Atlanta. To me, it's just they've just had a disappointing season, so I just have to kick them one more time while they're down. But like the fact that you had to trade for Eric Fetty is rough. But the worst piece of it is you have to move Marcell Ozuna. There were teams out there that would have taken that bat and potential for that at bat just for anything. And I don't know if Atlanta was just like, no, we're not taking him for a bag of socks and shoes, but to me, they should have.
You could have gotten a better pitcher than Fetty and Carrasco in return for him. Just to agree. Put in there for this year and see.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think Pittsburgh has to be on that list just because not just who they didn't move, but the fact that they didn't get more back for who they did trade.
That is true.
Because Bednar, they certainly didn't get more back for. They didn't move Mitch Keller either, which was pretty much a clear and obvious trade move. Key Brian Hayes, they got Taylor Rogers and Sammy Staffura. Yeah, correct. For another minor leaguer who's not that big time. They're definitely disappointment. I guess the team you didn't mention because Chicago's on that list just because Joe Ryan had to be in Chicago. I don't know why Jed all of a sudden all four of our top four prospects were off the table.
He pulled the John Mozeliak.
Because don't get me started on that
and
one.
He just got extended.
Because it was terrible for me.
Feel much better.
Watching Joe Ryan go to Boston.
Yeah.
And I was like, we must have just missed out on. And then
all
I
the
see
Yankee fans freaking out about it too. They're hilarious.
That was so funny. I was sitting there just like about in tears because I'm like, Joe Ryan was a slam dunk. That's all you had to do. But the Cubs they needed one more guy. I don't hate the moves they made. Soroka, not a bad pickup. It's a guy that, not that many years ago was a Cy Young type pitcher, but you needed a high-end starter, not a back-end starter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Gallen. That move had to have been made if you couldn't get Joe Ryan.
Right.
Unless Arizona just was asking for probably one of your top two prospects. To me, you can't make that move on a rental, but at least not a rental that is Zach Gallen currently.
Right. Yeah.
But Sandy, none of those guys. None of those guys made their way. The Dodgers, obviously, for what we spoke to. But I actually go the opposite on Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee big time fumbled the bag at the deadline here. They somehow moved Nestor Cortez, which is unbelievable to me because he's been awful up there.
And injured.
But to me, they had to make a couple moves, and they just didn't. Like Ryan O'Hearn, like I said, in that he made so much sense on that team, but they are relying so much on these young guys to keep producing at an insane level, and it's just not going to happen. We just watched Mizorowski go down. Now, obviously, that happened right after deadline, but we watch him go down. He's going to be a big piece of that. Like, you had to make a couple moves. It wasn't going to be insanely costly moves, but like I said, a Ryan O'Hearn, a Cedric Mullins, somebody that's a bit of a splash as a hitter had to make their way to Milwaukee, and that just didn't happen. It's weird for me to think, but I thought with the way Milwaukee's been playing, I thought they could make a move potentially on a Kyle Stowers. Because they've got the prospects to make that move.
Right, but I think Miami is building something quietly.
Apparently.
Right.
Like I said, I didn't realize they were
and they had
in the
no
spot
intent.
they're in right
like,
now.
I would have pegged him to go before the deadline, but then I started doing some research on their reports, and they love that kid, and they look at him as like the missed opportunity of a young Yelich and Stanton that they did get rid of. And so I think maybe they're looking at, like, we're going to try and build with this kid versus, because they lucked out and got him from Baltimore. Like,
True.
It
didn't cost them anything.
Right. Like, that's what's crazy to me.
Man, it just goes to show you prospects. Like, you really have
that's
no idea.
That's a piece for me, too.
All you can see is tools laid out, but it's like these kids, you got to put it together. They got to put it together.
Some develop early and some don't develop, and then some are late bloomers.
Well, look at
like Judge.
Blaze Jordan. Like, I'm sitting here going, this guy is a former top 10 prospect, potentially a very big pickup for you guys, but for Boston, he wasn't even playing, and they traded for Steven Matz.
He wasn't even playing so much as they're trying to find other players to play first base.
Yep,
when they have a first baseman,
100%. Who was batting 300 with several home runs.
He just has no defense, right?
Mm-hmm. For me, the only one team aside from Atlanta is an honorable mention, but Chicago belongs on this list for me because they had to do something to get better. Their bullpen was fine. Sure, the ads, they're going to be great. Yeah. But if your starting pitching can't get you there to begin with, doesn't matter. Soroka, sure, good.
It's fine. It didn't cost a lot, but
it's fine.
It's quality innings that you'll get out of that on the back end.
I feel like it was a statement of like, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to do this.
Well, see, and I was a little nervous because they locked down Jed. Which your GM re-signing their president can't be the biggest signing of the deadline.
And
it was. But to me, that meant, okay, we're all in. Kyle Tucker's for sure getting re-signed this offseason. Like, they're saying, Jed, this is your team. We're ready to spend the money and everything. And so I was like, Joe Ryan might be realistic. And you're putting so much pressure on Matthew Boyd to continue to pitch at an insanely high rate. Imanaga, you're asking him those every fifth or sixth game where you randomly just get hit. We can't have that every fifth or sixth game. Maybe every 10th game you can have that. You're telling Jameson Taillon, you have to come back and be a legitimate starter.
Yep.
Like, they've not been horrible, but we needed a 1 or a 2, and we didn't even get a 4.
I feel that pain, brother.
It's tough.
Yeah, the Andrew Kitchen Rogers, I think is going to be good. I always think about with these types of teams, Philly is someone that's got the pitching that is going to destroy anybody.
Yep.
So I think about when if the Cubs and the Phillies get into a 5-gamer or a 7-gamer, there's no way that you can beat them.
Well, and the thing is,
you pull Texas in 23.
Correct. Like, your hitting is going to have to be absolutely elite. You're going to have to get random pitchers pulling. But you're also going up against a team with elite hitters also.
Yes. Texas never ran into a starting rotation like Phillies.
Sure.
They had the best starter they faced was Tyler Glasnow against the Rays.
Yep.
And then Christian Javier in Houston. First time they couldn't touch him. The second time he got lit up. And so I think like they had no pitching to go against like Philly does. And so like your offense can't do that. Can't be expected to do that. And so if you're not going to get the pitching to compete, oh man, I'm the most disappointed then because it's like you made moves in the beginning of the season, like this is your shot.
Yep.
You've got PCA, Kyle Tucker, Michael Bush, all
Ian
those guys
Happ. Right.
Yeah, Ian
Suzuki,
Happ, Suzuki. They're all having the best season of their career right now. You got to go for it. And
you even have mid-tier catchers that are hitting at a high level right now.
You could have gone and got Cabrera, Sandy, and Joe Ryan.
100%.
You know.
Now, I will say, Miami, it sounded like they were asking a lot for those two guys. To me, that was a bit of a mistake on their point with Sandy because Sandy, Cabrera, maybe you build around that with that young team. But
but those moves are none of them that you're going to regret, right?
No. Well,
if you can flip them. They all had control.
That's...
Yeah, I mean...
Tucker's the only one that you can't do anything with anymore.
To me, it was... Joe Ryan was just such a slam dunk once Minnesota started selling.
100%. 100%.
And I'm sorry, but you've been building for 4 years. For this point, you had all these prospects. You gave away a few to get Tucker because you were in that win now mode. Like I said, they did enough to solidify the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Which Presley, a couple of these guys have been a little shaky. So I understood that. But Joe Ryan, if they tell you that they need your number 2 who is a catcher, and then probably your number 4 who's a pitcher, to me, you do it because Joe Ryan takes his place, and he's already a legitimate MLB starter who's young enough that you can just lock up with Tucker, and you've got a core with PCA, Tucker, Joe Ryan and a couple of these other Michael Bush. These are legitimate players.
And now the thing is, in the offseason, the whole landscape changes because you've got to spend more time focusing on Tucker
100%
than the other deal.
And you've got to get that done before anything
100%.
else.
And Boston could swoop right in and take him right from you.
What if the Yankees come in and they throw out this massive deal? Maybe that's why they didn't go after all these guys.
I got some thoughts, but we'll save that because I want you to go. But I do bring me back to the Minnesota Joe Ryan thing before we completely wrap this up. I have some thoughts, but finish your...
We wrapped the deadline up.
Did you say your top one?
Yeah, it was Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you were saying that was a runner-up.
No, that was my main disappointment.
I think the Twins wanted to trade Joe Ryan. I think they did, but I think they also realized that they're going to have probably 20 other teams engage in the offseason
100%.
that are not going to engage at the trade deadline because they don't know what they're going to be. Because here's the thing, and it's not just because I think yes, I do want him at St. Louis, but I think St. Louis wasn't ready to make that deal this year
for sure.
At the trade deadline, but come this offseason, I think they will totally be all in on somebody like that trying to make that ploy, whereas so you miss out on potential prospects that are available. And again, that's why I think Minnesota backed off. I think for Miami, they actually see a future with Alcantara, Cabrera, and Yuri Perez as their top three, which would be pretty nasty with this offense that's starting to form. Now, whether it carries into next year or not is still up for debate. But I think that's why those asking prices for those players went up, and I think that's what stung the Cubs because I think what happened was Matt Shaw started to come into the picture where they were going, well, if you want this guy, we want Shaw. And I think the only one you could legitimately make that argument for would have been Joe Ryan. That's the only guy I would have considered Shaw in on.
Well, and to me, if you're out on Shaw going, you have to be okay with the fact that one of your top two outfield prospects has to go in the deal because they're the better hitter. The catcher, he can rake sim, but he reminds me a lot of Pozo, kind of out of shape guy, but kind of hit a little. But he's not a bad defender by any means. But it just didn't make sense to me to hold both of them because even if you move on from life with Ian Happ, your goal has to be Kyle Tucker remains in a Cubs jersey this offseason. And if that's the case, you don't have room for two outfield prospects because PCA is the guy you're building around.
Okay, so that's my other point here is I think for whatever reason, I'm not saying he doesn't enjoy Chicago, but I think he's just flat out said, and this is Kyle Tucker, I'm not having any contract talks because I want to try free agent. I just want to see what my options are. It's not to say that he's not going to re-sign there. And so then the Cubs went into stalemate mode. What if we don't have Kyle Tucker? We need both of these guys.
So here's my take on that whole thing. This offseason is going to be crazy when it comes to free agency specifically because there's only going to be literally a handful, so 5 or less teams that are going to be able to go after him. Because 2027 lockout exists and looms over all of the owners, and no one is going to put a 12-year, 15-year contract up that can't just eat it if they want to. Because if caps are really in play, that changes what a contract looks like. And I don't see the Cubs playing that way. I'm not saying they won't. But to me, that screams, okay, Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, and anybody, you know what I mean?
And Boston.
Boston maybe eat all that money.
Here's the crazy thing, right?
Not eat all the money.
Houston traded him. Who's to say they won't come back and go,
especially
we're going to bring him back?
Correa's there again. And they're still in this window. They just keep winning. And why would they get rid of all these pitchers that they have if they don't have to? And they bring Kyle Tucker back. Oh, and guess what? We have an upgrade out in the outfield now, too, in Cam Smith.
So. Cam Smith, you're just going to play left field now.
100%.
Right.
Let's wrap the episode up with. Sorry, I was just watching the Yankees make another error. It's insane. Volpe. Let's do a quick player of the month hit. We won't do we don't break down the 3 like we normally do. we'll just do. You want to do a position player and a pitcher for each league, or you want to just do best player?
I just did one overall,
Sure.
but that's just me.
We're all gonna have the same one. So starting with the AL, is everyone gonna say it together? Go ahead, Brian.
It is going to be Kurtz.
Yep.
I mean, and it's not, we were talking a little bit off air. It's not because of the 4 home run game. I mean, when you start to look at his stat line, what he was actually doing was just, I mean, stupid, insane. And this is a rookie, by the way, too. It's not even just
that got called up
piece.
later.
Right. I mean,
not at the beginning.
395, 11 home runs, 27 RBIs, and a 1433 OPS.
The OPS is what did it for
good?
me.
Chat?
Right. So, like, it's like there's just no arguing on that side of it. And I don't want to just keep talking because I want you guys to be able to add some additional stats and thoughts to that because I know that's going to be your guy too.
Yeah, no, it's Kurtz. I did actually have a couple of honorable mentions just because we haven't said their names this year, but that was George Springer, had a very nice month. Corey Seager also snuck his way back into
Yeah,
things.
he did.
And then Randy Rosarina. All three of those guys had a very nice season. But Kurtz, great. Unbelievable. Yeah. I'll pass it to you,
And
Tim.
pitcher-wise, if you want to throw it out, like the pitcher of the month, at least in a lot of voting, was Evaldi for Texas as far as the AL side. So the West representing well.
My favorite position player of all time and my favorite pitcher of all time. Who would have thunk? Kurtz for me, the WOBA at 581 is ridiculous. Like ridiculous. You're going to have a successful plate appearance more than half the time that you're at the plate. It's
at
crazy.
the big league level. We're not talking AAA.
Yep.
I'd be interested to see what his season looks like the rest of the way because that's an Aaron Judge month, right?
Yep.
Can he do that the rest of the season while adjusting? Because if he can, whoa!
I will say Kurtz showed a lot of promise his last 2 years in college, and he was a really interesting prospect, I thought.
What was his pick when he got drafted? Anybody remember?
I don't remember where he ended up landing.
I mean, it's like whoever missed him.
Yeah,
they're kicking himself.
Dumb.
But I mean, he has got some serious power.
Yeah. Now, negative defensive WAR. So
with those
team
numbers, I don't care.
That team that they have that they're building, they're going to be scoring about 8 runs a game. So
yeah, for real. Isolated power of 558 is kind of nuts because our other position player is 100 points lower than that. 2.4 WAR in 1 month is also crazy. So shout out to Nick
with
Kurtz.
bad defense. I'm just going to throw that out there for the WAR side of it.
My honorable mention would have been actually Jaron Duran.
Not bad pick
and
either.
then Corey Seager, he's had a great month. But yeah, NL. Shall we say at the same time? Go ahead, Brian.
Kyle Stowers.
Yeah.
From
So 2 rookies.
Yeah.
Miami Marlins. Well, Stowers I don't think is technically a rookie because he did play in Baltimore and he has some service time prior.
I think you're right.
But again, 364, 10 home runs, 20 RBIs, 1269 OPS.
Yeah, you're right. More than a year of service time.
Yeah. So
like right
now,
year. That's crazy.
This ended up being a little bit closer. I mean, Stowers still gets the nod. Schwarber's had a heck of a month. Yep. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if August doesn't become Schwarber's month. And he just does one of those crazy things that he does on that side because dude is just tremendous. And then I'm going to throw it out there. I don't think it'll surprise, but pitcher side would have been Paul Skeens. I mean, continuing to just dominate, even though he can't really win a whole lot of games because that offense just doesn't show up.
So annoying.
Team just doesn't show up.
Yeah, no, I obviously agree. Schwarber, I actually, prior to looking at the months, I didn't realize Stowers was having such a good month. Everything with the Marlins was just buried.
Nobody
cares about the Marlins. Right. Whereas Schwarber's hitting a home run every third night, it seemed like. And so I thought Schwarber was going to be the lock, and then I see Stowers, and I was like, oh, never mind. But Skeens for sure was up there. The National League actually had some very solid pitching this month. Yeah. Lodolo, Boyd, Sanchez, Pivetta, all those guys. If Skeens wouldn't have had his like 0.7 ERA or whatever, stupidly low, and he actually won a couple games. I mean, it was a miracle to watch that happen.
I think that's why he got the nod. It was because they actually won the 2 games.
You just don't see it very often for the poor guy. But yeah, that's Skeens.
So my honorable mention is Willie Adames. For the month. He did some great stuff. I mean, home run count's lower than but he's not that type of hitter. But
actually, I had him on my list too.
For the month, a 337 average.
Yep.
A 674 slug. That's pretty good, man. I mean, not pretty good.
Especially because he was playing isolated.
That's pretty dang good.
He was playing isolated ball out there too because San Francisco's
nobody else
awful.
is doing anything. So
I mean, if you're a WAR guy. So Stowers is obviously my pick, but they both have the same of 1.8 WAR. So I mean,
nice.
Now, Adames is a great defender. Stowers is
he's an average, maybe above average defender, right?
Yeah, but Stowers WOBA sits at 516. Kurtz is 581, but his isolated power is 455, and Kurtz was 456.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Or 556. I'm sorry.
Right. Crazy.
That's insane. I consider Stowers a rookie because last year was like a cup of coffee to me.
Right.
That's pretty insane. Good for him. Shout out to him. Let's wrap this up. Anything else to go over really quick before we do it? I wanted to look at the standings real quick as we kind of look at this. A couple things that jump out to me. I was looking at the AL. The Rangers are 2 games behind the Seattle Mariners. So if Seattle Mariners won the trade deadline, they are 3rd wild card right now. And they are a half game back of the Yankees, 2 back of the Red Sox. The Red Sox are running away with the wild card, which is crazy. If we assume that's what's going to happen based on play right now, which August is when 1 month.
Yep.
Almost 2 months before the end of the season, the Yankees are going to fall.
Yep.
But could the Mariners also? Because they're 2 games ahead of the Rangers. And we also said someone in the Central could go. The Mariners have a plus 22 run differential, and the Rangers have a plus 66.
Yeah, I don't see any. I think the Central's going to fall to just the division winner, which right now, if I had to peg it, I mean, they still got an 8.5 game lead, which is Detroit, even though they have been miserable as of late. I mean, they're starting to turn it around. I don't know that the
6-4 in the last 10.
Yeah. I don't know that the Guardians are going to do anything to close the gap there.
I don't think
so.
Yeah.
The interesting part to me is can the Rangers catch the Mariners? Because I think the Rangers offense has to get extremely hot.
So here's my counter argument to that. The Rangers are playing the Yankees for 3 games right now.
That's a sweep.
They sweep them because they just got swept by Miami.
Sure, they're going to kick the Yankees out of it.
And that's my point.
But if the Mariners win their games, it doesn't change anything for them.
Yes.
That's what I'm until they start going head to head, which I don't know how many games they have left. That's going to be kind of like you're going to want to keep an eye on it. But like again, the Mariners with the moves they made give them another week and a half. And I want to see what kind of run they can put together.
Yeah.
Because, like, for both of them, I would even say this for the Rangers right now. Those 3 teams, the Astros, Mariners, and Rangers, it's going to be fun to watch. Like, that's going to be worth staying up late to watch that race unfold because all 3 of those teams made themselves better at the trade deadline.
Yes, they did. The Yankees, to me, are clearly going to fall out of the playoff picture. The Red Sox are an interesting one for the points we made. Like, they did not really move the needle at the deadline. Now, given a guy like Steven Matz could be a very beneficial piece. Who knows?
He looked good in his first debut with them. Clean inning.
And they're playing well right now, so that helps them out. But
better than us.
Cleveland, for sure, falling out of the picture. Kansas City, I think, could make a little noise. They've got a very good young core that was just right there last year. But they're probably looking more like the Rays last year, where they're sitting there 4 days before the end of the year and get knocked out. Houston, to me, the interesting one is watching that division. And could you watch Seattle potentially catch Houston here. Houston's kind of sputtering right now. And the reason is they're in the same boat as the Dodgers. They have lost an army worth of players, but somehow have continued to win up to this point. Yeah, has it finally reached the tipping point where they've lost too many players?
Right. I think the only good thing for Houston right now is a lot of those players are starting to come back.
Sure.
Because you've just gotten Pena back.
Yep.
Who's going to start to, work himself back into it. Aaron Getty's not that far away. Yep. That's why he was in on some of the trade conversations, because he's not far away.
Yeah.
And now Jordan's the big piece, because nobody really knows where he's at.
That's okay. Yeah. A couple of the people I work with were asking, has anybody heard anything about Jordan? I was like, dude, nobody has any idea what's going on with him.
So the Rangers and the Mariners equally just added 4.3 WAR to their team.
Oh, right.
Which I think is really, really interesting. I mean, the picture in the AL is going to stay the same. It's going to be a 7-team race. So it's which team is going to knock out the sixth one, in my opinion. I think
the Yankees are going to be looking on the outside looking in.
They're doing some weird stuff. And the thing is, if their team falls out of the playoffs because of everything that happens, I'd hate to be in New York City.
Yeah.
So
what were you going to say?
No, here's my sneaky. This is where I could see it unfolding this way, where we only get one team from the East, one team from the Central,
in the
and
AL?
3 teams from the West in the AL. Because I could see the Blue Jays imploding and Boston actually just holding pat and ended up taking the division like we initially. Now, not the record that we thought, but they take the division and the Blue Jays just fall out of it.
Interesting. I mean, they have been,
And
so here's the thing to your point. So I'm kind of an expected win-loss run differential guy. The Blue Jays run differential is a plus 16. Their expected record should be 58 and 55.
So they're well above that.
They're well above that. That is the same as the Rangers. The Rangers expected should be 64 and 49.
Well,
so the Blue Jays are outplaying and outperforming what they should be doing. The Rangers are underperforming.
That's a fair point.
And also, of all the teams, though, they have the smallest differential.
Yep.
The Blue Jays do. That's why I do not have a lot of faith in them right now.
Yeah.
They made a tremendous run, much like the Twins did.
Yeah.
And it catapulted
Cardinals
themselves, right.
Well, and it helped them at the right time
right.
watching the Yankees completely collapse.
Exactly.
And so the other sneaky thing aside, and we'll move on to the NL, the Rays, if we're going by this metric, the Rays have a plus 46 run differential, and they should be a 61 to 52 record.
Yeah.
And that is better than both the Rangers and the Blue Jays.
They're kind of in the same window as the Royals for me, that you could see them make a run, but probably slightly miss. But like picking up Adrian Hauser was super underrated, but that guy's having a very good year, and the Rays are tremendous with arms. So I could see them doing something. And they've got some really solid young pieces on that team.
Yeah. So let's swap over to the NL. A couple things is I really, really wonder, the Padres don't scream a lock for me. The Dodgers, is as bad as they are and as far as they're falling, they scream a lock. Now, I think I said at the beginning of the season, I said a 2-2-2. But what if it's a 2 East, 3 Central, 1 West? The Reds have a plus differential of plus 42, and their expected record is 60 and 52, which is the same as the Padres. Should be. Padres have a plus 36 differential, and their expected is 60 and 52.
I was really ready to come on here before the deadline happened and say the Mets are going to fall out of the picture, because to me they were falling out of the picture. And then they made all the right moves. So I don't see Philly and the Mets are locked in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Miami's going to make some things interesting, but probably misses. Milwaukee and Chicago, not to be a homer, but to me, Chicago's a lock to be in the playoffs. Milwaukee, I still can see falling off down the stretch of this year because they have been playing at such a ridiculously high rate. And it just can't be said enough, in my opinion. They have one of the hardest remaining schedules.
Yep.
So I could see them sliding, and all of a sudden you're watching San Diego and LA both slide in there, and Cincinnati seems to be ascending.
Terry Francona. Milwaukee has a run differential plus 121.
They do?
The best in the NL.
In baseball.
Well, yeah, in baseball.
Can you imagine that?
In baseball.
Right.
Now, Churio just got put on the injured list. And
Mizorowski.
I think that I don't
lost
think
Cortez. It's going to make them fall.
Somehow they're winning games now.
Yeah.
I don't know that they win the Central. I still think it's the Cubs to be had because of this. You said it, the strength of schedule remaining. But I don't think Milwaukee falls out of it. Honestly, when I look at this, as much as it pains me, I think the picture we see in the NL is the picture we're going to see come playoff time.
Yep, I agree.
The one thing I would love to see more than anything, outside of obviously the Cardinals going on some magical run, right, would be that the Marlins continue this insane run.
That would be fun.
And they make it interesting.
Arizona type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They just make it interesting. You know, maybe San Diego does fall off a little bit and they can catch them. I think the Reds are going to be too up and down for that. I think they're going to do the same thing. Like, I think it's going to come down to, I think, the Padres, the Reds, and I hope the Marlins that are fighting for that final spot, and that's it. I think the others are just locked up.
We all said the Padres won first and second place won the deadline.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily lock them up to
I
this
agree.
runaway because of what's right around them.
I agree. But and again, because right now, and again, we still have 2 months essentially of baseball left.
Absolutely.
They're 4 games ahead in the wild card. That's a tough hill to climb in 2 months.
It is.
It doesn't seem like it because we've seen a lot of these random 10-game winning streaks or 7-game losing streaks out of teams.
Yep.
But I mean, if they're playing, I mean, right now they're 7-3 in their last 10. Even if you bring that down to where they're 6-4 in each of the next 10, or maybe they drop to 5-5 a couple weeks, the amount that the Reds, and then even more for the Marlins, that they would have to play at an 8-2 mark just to close the gap is insane.
Well, here's an interesting one for you. You boys think about, could we see a world in which the 2 teams that played in the World Series last year both missed the playoffs? That would be interesting to watch because I do see the Dodgers falling here. Unless Mookie turns it around. Mookie's a big piece of that. If Mookie turns back into the player he's been for several years, I don't see that happening. But Cincinnati's playing well enough, I think, to stay in that picture. And I don't know how many more injuries the Dodgers can take on.
Yeah.
Last month, Ohtani only batted .204. He hit like 10 bombs or something like that. So nice month in that standpoint. But if you don't have the cushion of having Mookie and Freddie Freeman and Will Smith all hitting at a high clip around that, okay, you get 1 run out of him, but you're going up against the Milwaukee Brewers who are putting up a lot of runs right now, not looking good. Now, I will say it would be very interesting to watch their final series of the year is versus the Seattle Mariners, and we could be watching 2 teams fighting for a spot to get into the playoffs, or they're solidifying where they're at within the playoffs with them. But I think it's going to end up being 2-2-2. I think is what we're probably looking at.
I think the way it sits right now is where it's going to end. I mean, for me, for the Dodgers to miss the playoffs altogether, it would have to be a catastrophic
it's going to be
imploding.
It's going to be another injury if they fall. It's going to be just one injury they just couldn't weather.
The thing for me, Glasnow and Snell are both back. They got to ramp up, obviously. But to your point, if they stay healthy, the Dodgers aren't losing because their pitching is too good to keep them.
Yeah, and I mean,
the runs
you're talking
low.
a 7-game cushion from from that wild card spot.
Sure. I like what you're thinking though, because that team that's Mookie Betts is falling apart.
Yep. Right. And now let's say Glasnow goes out and Snell goes out again. I could totally
and now they're
see
sitting here going,
employment.
why did we send Dustin May away?
Right. I could see a world in where they
Ohtani
implode.
can't pitch anymore.
That's it. they could be an injury away from this team. Like I said, San Diego, if the moves work out, that's the big if. If San Diego had Ryan O'Hearn and Laureano both pay off in a big way, because to me their pitching was already fine, but they're hitting. If those guys actually come through big for them, they catch them in the division. And LA's sitting here looking back, and they see Cincinnati and Miami just kind of looming behind them right there. And then they lose an Ohtani because he can't pitch the rest of the year, and he's only going to be able to hit or something. Yeah, that could be the final nail in that coffin. I could see. Or now, given Mookie starts hitting, these injuries don't happen. The Dodgers are not falling off.
Though, man.
But
Mookie's not been hitting for 2 months.
They do have the fortune of
he can turn it on at any point.
Correct. They have the Giants in 2 series. They have the Rockies in a series of 4 games. They have the Pirates in a series. They have Baltimore in a series. So they're kind of in the same picture as the Cubs, where their strength of schedule really looks pretty nice for them. But
man, baseball's a weird sport.
Baseball's weird, man.
The Rockies could destroy them.
The 2 best teams since June 1st are the Milwaukee Brewers and the Miami Marlins. Baseball's weird, man.
Baseball is weird.
And the Rockies haven't played that bad.
They haven't. They've played better.
I mean,
the White Sox are winning games.
Right. I mean,
what is even 2025?
What is happening right now?
I mean, it's crazy when you start looking at the expected, because the Cincinnati Reds should mirror the Mets.
That's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said, man.
It's crazy. And so obviously you see where baseball is baseball, but I shouldn't say age, but experience plays a big factor, because I think the Reds are where they are because they're inexperienced to some degree. Now, can Tito make up for it?
Sure.
That's the thing,
It's possible.
Man. And San Diego's weird, man. There's some weird
100%.
clubhouse stuff there that everybody feels like has been addressed, but at the same time,
everybody, like, at least from the St. Louis perspective, loves Schilt for like his gritty demeanor. But I'm here to tell you, not that he's a bad manager, he is not a player's manager in that regard. If you're a veteran, which I think he loves his Machados and players like that because he respects them.
Yep.
But he does not make good bullpen decisions. He does not make good overall managerial decisions. I would say, and people in St. Louis might crucify me for this, and that's okay, Oli Marmol is a better overall manager than Schilt is. Schilt just had more to work with.
That's fair. I don't hate that take.
The Dodgers and the Padres equally have one of the best remaining schedules. The Cubs equally have one of the best remaining schedules. Cincinnati has a mid-tier tough schedule. It's going to be a good 2 months of baseball, boys.
It's going to be
fun.
That's
the piece with the Reds that's interesting is, like I said, their inexperience was showing up early in the year. They weren't hitting the ball. Their pitching's been electric all year, but they just weren't hitting the ball. But they're hitting the ball now. And I think they can figure out a way to get Key Bryant Hayes hitting the ball. That's why I thought he was a great pickup there. Because if you start getting a little bit of power out of that guy,
he did hit a home run
plus
already
elite
for him.
Defense,
Tito.
He could be the difference. I'm not even saying.
There's a few coaches out there.
We'll see how bad LA is going to be in about 10 minutes when they start the series with St. Louis, because
they dropped 2 or 3 versus St. Louis.
That'll tell
just
you.
Go ahead and chalk it up.
You
The
might
Dodgers
start
year's
saying
over.
the fall.
And with that, it's time to wrap it up.
That's
right. We
right.
got a game to watch. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you in the next episode.